Freljordian welcome.
Yes, a true Freljordian welcome indeed. Welcome back to Voices of the Old Ones. We've been gone a while, but we're back now. It's me, Janky, and I'm joined by my co-host Gomez.
Hello.
We've been gone for I think 3 weeks now. We had to move the day by a week to make up for last time when we moved the day by a week.
It was a bit weird. I'm not gonna lie, it was.
But we're back now. We're back now, and we shouldn't need to move an episode again until the next expansion comes out. So
Yeah, hopefully not. I'm so looking for like if you've looked at because obviously when you log in now it gives you the roadmap. Just the fact that Von Yip is in the artwork for the next set. Just want to know.
Yeah. Underworld Von Yip. Yeah.
Exactly. That's all.
Yeah, I saw that that roadmap come out in, I think it was Korean or something. I saw it early because it came out on the one of the Asian Twitters, and I was trying to decipher what all the ones were, and I saw the Ruination art. I was like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah, because that's the next event, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. The Ruin King video game is coming out for
nice
Steam and Nintendo Wii. I think it was some weird combination. And we're getting an associate event.
Yes.
But on today's episode, we will be not looking forward, but looking back at the most recent patch, patch 2.9, the patch that killed Runeterra.
I mean, if you listen to some people, that's what they say.
Our opinions might differ a little bit from the community consensus, but we'll go over that as we go.
Yeah.
And I think we should probably start by just talking about what was in the patch, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to take us that long.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
2 champion buffs, 2 follower nerfs,
Yes.
and a bug fix, in air quotes.
Yes. Yes.
I think... So I'll start with the bug fix, because I think it led largely to a lot of the discontent in the community.
Yeah.
The fact that they hid... Or they didn't hide it, not on purpose. I don't think this was malicious, but they hid a very powerful buff to Irelia in the bug fixes. She now, like Lucian or Jinx or Sejuani or any of the other champions that got quality of life updates, she now triggers correctly if attacking with her on board causes her to level up. So she gives you a Blade Surge on your first attack now.
Yeah.
Which is a full combat sooner she starts doing her very powerful thing. So that is a buff to what was the most hated deck in the format.
I mean, still, I think at the moment it still is.
Maybe.
So they did buff the deck, which everyone was hoping was gonna get nerfed. So there was.
Yeah, the community reaction to that specifically, as well as the lackluster remainder of the patch, was outrage, genuine outrage. I've never seen Reddit and Twitter so on fire, red in their eyes.
Yeah, I mean it was a storm of hatred. That is
yeah.
That is true. Speaking of bug fixes, I know that obviously I want to go on about this, but one actually very important bug fix, which I'm so glad got done, was Scrying Sands, because Scrying Sands didn't use the trigger spell shield.
Yeah.
Actually, to me, that was actually the more interesting bug fix I was looking for.
If we're talking about bug fixes that are interesting and good, Howling Abyss should no longer create invisible cards in hand. What the fuck does that mean?
So, I didn't notice. I play Howling Abyss. I never saw this happen.
Yeah, that's yeah. And apparently Give It All didn't work if guys had negative power, which is quite interesting.
To be fair, that was a thing.
Yeah.
I legitimately remember doing that because somebody frostbited one of my units, and then when I used Give It All, everyone went up. That unit did go up, but it was minus the attack it had. If you understand what I mean. So,
yeah.
So that's how it was really weird. And it didn't make any sense because the line of Give It All does say raise everyone's attack stats to the most powerful one. But yeah, the negative effects still caused problems along the line. But obviously, yeah, it can still. By the way, it still means that if you want to stop whoever the highest power level is, so like I say that somebody's got like a sort of 8 power and you frostbite it, then it'd be the one of the next best power will be what would be done. This was just it was things that weren't the best, which it the most powerful that were not going up to the full power if they had negatives on them. That's just the point I want to make about that one.
Weird.
It
That's
was really weird. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, like in the realm of bugs, it doesn't have to make like logistic sense. We just have to trust that the coding works. So the buffs are also. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. The buffs are also disappointing. They're not interesting buffs, and I don't think they're very. I don't think they're impactful either.
They're not going to be I think that's the word, is impactful. Like when people expect, because this is the balance patch, which admittedly we get this every 4 weeks, because obviously we get patches every 2 weeks, but the actual balance change one is every every 4 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we get one which is the balance patch, one which is just like a bug general quality of life, and then the next one is the patch notes again. So it can basically be a month that you go without changes to cards if if you don't see much impact on this one. I will admit, like most of the community, I did expect more than just 4 things changed.
Oh yeah. I expected more. I'm disappointed that there's not more. I understand all of that. I get all that. Just for those of you who aren't aware, they made Talia +1/+1. They made Malphite level up immediately with Eye of Raharak.
Yes.
He only has to see 10 landmarks summoned. The problem is, these champions were already doing what they were doing pretty effectively. They didn't have high win rates, but I don't think that had anything to do with their stats or their difficulty of leveling up.
Yeah, those stats didn't really change anything. Really,
it's just that they're really bad into the meta. Like tweaking Yasuo, and making it so that he levels up faster or whatever would not make him significantly stronger. It's just like the same problem with Leona. It's just like Malphite, Leona, Yasuo. They all are trying to stun in a meta that largely has people attacking without using priority.
Yeah.
It's this shouldn't change much. These archetypes are still very weak, especially because they didn't change any landmarks at all. And the nerfs we saw were unsurprisingly for Azir Aurelia in their 4-cost now 5-cost unit, the Blossoming Blade.
Blossoming Blade, yeah.
And Inspiring Marshal, who will now reasonably be replaced by Voice of the Risen or whatever it's called.
Yes, but that one does require making sure that you have leveled one of your champions, which, to be fair, in that deck is quite easy. But
I think I think these will be nerfs that you feel. I don't think the buffs will be buffs that you particularly feel most of the time. But playing Azir Aurelia must feel worse now, right?
No, I mean, not considerably. Marshall was more of a 2 of most of the time. They were starting as you said, and they could easily replace it with voices, Voice of the Risen. The Blossoming Blade, yet again, it doesn't really do too much, because I guess the only thing that does make it is that if you tried to recall that unit and replay it, which rarely happened because most of the time they were recalling the 2-cost Blade Dance one, but say that you didn't have that on the board or it had been killed or whatnot, this was the next one that you would recall and replay. So just getting it up to 5-cost means it's a little bit trickier. You can't just do that as quickly, I guess. But it's neither of these nerfs are gonna hit that deck particularly. It's still gonna be really powerful.
Yeah, and here's the thing, which I at least believe that this patch was very good from a balance sense. Because Azir Aurelia win rate wise was not particularly blowing people's gasket. It was a very good deck, but it wasn't it was really obnoxious. Trust me, it was like, oh yeah, it was really obnoxious. The matchup tables were disgusting and it was very draw dependent, but it was not that much more powerful than any other deck. I think it's fair to say, or at least not that much more powerful than the other meta decks.
Well, here's the thing: why I think that people are annoyed about this deck the most. Like, I might be completely wrong, but from what I gather and what I can sense from the community is the fact that so let's face it, a deck that everyone hates. That's nothing new. We've had like Twisted Fate Fizz. There's been the going back even further, the Fielder Rush Trundle Tryndamere deck. We've got like there's been so many decks that have been like Fiora Shen as well. Like, there's so many decks which have been like hated at some point and just been like the main deck, which is like even Nasus Fresh, like
go hard.
Go hard. Yeah, there's been numerous decks which like throughout the history of Runeterra have been annoying, and let's face it, when it's come to like balance changes, not a lot has really happened. Like, you know, what I mean is some of those took time. And obviously, a lot like there have been hit now. But what I mean is that when people were getting annoyed about them, it took time until we saw balance changes come in. Right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say there?
Yeah.
I think the reason why people are more annoyed about this deck and more annoyed in general is because all those and they wanted a resolution faster, is because this deck, it's that you can misplay and still win. Like, people make misplays with it's such a deck which doesn't 100% require skill. All those other decks require skill. Like, you can give like Nasus Thrash to a complete amateur, and like whether or not they would win or not is a difference, because there's certain things you need to play at certain times, and there's certain like matchups you're like, okay, I need to keep this or I need to keep that, like, type thing, and like there's knowledge which you need to have. With this deck, it is literally just like there are, don't get me wrong, there are some elements that you need to try and make sure, because obviously you want to be curving outright in this deck, so you want to obviously be getting like, say, Spine Shoot or Droplet one on turn 1, getting your Deus down on turn 2, then getting like, you know, a Zero whatnot out on turn 3. So there is certain things you're trying to do, but a lot of that deck is just throw things out, and then the multiple attacks that you're doing forward, like, there's not a lot that can stop it, if you understand what I mean. So I feel that's more the annoyance, is the fact that it is a deck which feels unfair and feels that it doesn't require much skill. That's why I feel that so many people are annoyed about it.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Like, and it's like, once you have, if someone has told you the mulligan guide, like if someone has told you you are aggressively mulliganing for Deus and Azir, then you have, you've essentially been taught the deck, like, because it doesn't matter what your opponent is playing, you're still always aggressively mulling for those cards. It runs no interaction at all except Homecoming. So whether you win is not really dependent on what your opponent is doing. It's dependent on how fast you're doing your thing. And that being said, it is still just an aggro-ish deck that leads towards a combo playstyle. I think I don't like it as much as the next person, but after this patch, I would say that there are 5-6 decks that are all S tier, and the meta is quite balanced. But I would also say that as balanced as it is, it's about 6 times as stale.
Yeah.
These decks that have been good, that are good now, have except for Azir Aurelia, the decks that have been good now were very good the last time we were going into seasonals, and this is the seasonals patch. The decks that people will be taking are probably going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
And that's what frustrates me the most, is that I still have to play against Thresh Nasus.
And so that's what I mean. I think that's, as you say, what people are annoyed about. Now, as I said, I wasn't expecting any changes to Azir Aurelia, because we were actually told previously on Reddit that we weren't going to see many changes happen to that deck because of the way that patch schedule works, right? So because they're in the App Store, they've got to get those patch notes like which is like the App Store, whatever it is, like for like 2 weeks in advance. So by the time that they've got the data and whatnot, or the general opinion, it's kind of hard for them to then make changes based on like quicker, right?
Yeah.
So as I said, I wasn't expecting anything there. When I was like going into this patch, I was expecting to see a few more things though. Like I was expecting to see like maybe some more buffs into Bilgewater, which is a region which is starting to go down a little bit. Because admittedly, it was nerfed pretty hard.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
So, like, and the thing of it is, here's the thing that we need to remember is how long it took Riptide Rex to get nerfed. Like, they didn't want to nerf Riptide Rex. The only reason they ended up nerfing Riptide Rex was because of the outcry of the community. Because I feel like Riot knew what was cut. Like Riot like has already got like its sets kind of planned out ish at this point, and so knows okay, this is going to be added to the game. This is going to be added to the game. So in their mind, they're like, I'll leave that as it is because that's going to be fine when this comes in. But it's because of having to wait for this, and the players obviously don't know what's coming. So that's when like they get outcry and they want things changed immediately. So obviously Bilgewater got really heavily nerfed. And so, for example, like now, even when you think about it, Make It Rain, its original form of like 2 cost would be fine now because one damage happening 3 times across the board, especially against what like Blight, like when you got Blight, like that percentage chance of hitting those things, like kind of like stopping some of the attack going forward at you, that would be perfectly fine now.
I would like to see a revert to Petty Officer because Bilgewater is like gasping for a good 3-drop.
Yeah, speaking of good 3 like let's face it, Shurima has no good 3-drops.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh god, let's going back to that old argument. But but yeah, that's what I mean. So that's what I was expecting to see. So I think what more the displeasure was obviously like a lot of people. If you will read on Reddit, you keep yourself up to date, you would know that they had told us that we weren't going to get many things happening to Azir Aurelia. So a lot of people would be going into this thinking, okay, right, let's see what else we're going to... Like, that's how I went into this thinking, okay, let's see what else we're going to get. And so I feel that is where the outrage also stemmed from, in a manner of speaking, was the fact that we expected more things that could make some form of change, or just like a few different buffs and that into some of like the weaker cards and regions that we haven't seen for a while. And I feel like that's what even more so. Now I will say that I feel that most of their resources did go into Lab of Legends, which, let's face it, they've done a great job. They've added 5 new champions, new powers, like new all this, that, and the other. So I will admit they've done a lot, but I feel like they concentrate. That's what this patch was more about. Is they were concentrating on Lab of Legends than what they were the meta.
Yeah. They all in the Reddit post they later released. They were also talking. They what was it they said? We were caring too much about the future and failed to look at the present, or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's also the coming expansion, which I think they believe is going to make a large difference.
Until we see it, it's hard to say.
About that Reddit post, though, I am happy that Riot is open and honest with us. For those who aren't aware, after the outcry of this patch, Riot posted on Reddit talking about their plans for the future, like this big long 6-paragraph thing about hearing us and how they understand why we're disappointed. To the community's defense, before that post, they also posted another one which was a lot more bleak. But they posted this one, and this is the one I want to focus on, because I don't like that Riot felt that they needed to post that. We really did bully that out of them this time around. The Shuriman Desert is Vast thing was all jokes, really. There was real.
It was very memey that when that was a thing.
Yeah, it was a very real grievance that people had, but it was a joke. And this patch, people didn't react in light-hearted. People started talking about Like, okay, what games can I play that how's
The,
Hearthstone right
the game
now?
is
Like,
dead. The game is dead.
yeah.
Rest in peace, Legends of Runeterra.
At Riot Games, hashtag Legends of Runeterra, blah 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 blah, on posts that they really didn't need to direct directly at Riot Games. You know, like I'm seeing things like, does anyone know if the new Hearthstone expansion is good? Hashtag Legends of Runeterra. Like,
Yeah.
I proper like outrage. Worse than that as well, but like I don't want to get.
I mean,
I don't want to call anyone out specifically.
there was a number of people who were saying like, okay, the game's dead, it's done. Oh, this is like, what a promising game, and now it's dead and whatnot like that, which is a massive overreaction. There was a lot of people who did say like some really like crazy things and directing it directly at the team, which, as you said, it kind of forced this response. And I'm happy that I read this response, by the way. So it was a really nice like a response and whatnot by Riot. And I will say, here's one thing that people need to realize, right? Is we were getting responses from them earlier on, and like the fact that if you actually look on the Legends of Runeterra subreddit, there's a number of things whereby Riot, which are like verified Riot employees and verified like people who work on this game, actually do write on there like a couple of times and whatnot, and we get posts on Twitter and whatnot sometimes from the actual developers themselves, not so much from the Legends of Runeterra Twitter, which is more just about them just plugging their things which are going on, like seasonals and different things like that. But this is a game which, unlike any other one that I played in the past, like I said, I've come from like Hearthstone, but I played many other games in the past, whereby the actual developers are talking to us, right? They are communicating with us, and what you need to try to remember is, there's all well and good being upset and criticizing and saying like a constructive criticism towards them, being like, look, I'm upset about this because X, Y, and Z. Like I expected this. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain ways to go about it, right? In terms of your frustration and constructive criticism, and we need to be careful because this is actually really nice that they do listen to us and they do, which I think again is another reason why the outcry was so much, is because let's face it, this is the first like in brackets like bad patch. Like, I know that as you said, it did work a little bit to help like balance certain things out, but like in brackets, this is the first
it's objectively bad. Like, yeah. I'm not trying to defend it.
Yeah.
On overall,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This is like the first bad patch, right? And the amount of hatred that went towards it, I think it's because we're used to a certain standard coming from Riot, right? In terms of when it comes to these balance patches. And so the fact that we saw nothing, which, to be fair, yet again, another thing to remember is balance patching. It's really hard, okay? It's really hard to get, all it takes is, again, I know that I'm just rambling at this point, but let's go back on some things. So, bearing in mind, balance patching is hard. They nerfed, Moon Man and Moon Man's weapons, Aphelios. They basically killed that card with those with those things. You don't really see too many Moon Men's around right now in Aphelios. So, there's certain things where they want to be careful, and even, just a simple stat change, like Braum, as we saw, just giving Braum one attack, that had to be changed back. I mean, there's certain things whereby even just a singular stat or a singular mana changing cost can tip the game in far different ways than what people think. It's a lot. So balance change, balance patching or balance changing is a really delicate art and should not be entered into lightly.
Yeah,
is the thing with it. And so there is those other factors to feature in here. But I feel like that's why people are more upset, is because we were used to a certain standard of balance patching, and some people feel that this one fell short. And as I said, it was more probably because they were focusing on the Lab of Legends stuff than the actual meta. But as I said, considering the fact that the vast majority of the player base does play on the ladder and does play obviously the meta and whatnot, I think that's why it was so huge, the outcry. But you need to be careful with how you go about it, because as I said, if imagine this was the other way around. Imagine you're in the flip reverse. Imagine you're in Riot shoes. If you got so many people throwing hatred at you, at one point, at some stage, you're just going to clam up and not say anything.
Yes.
And we don't want that, because the fact that the developers are so open with us, this is something that we should be happy and rejoicing about, is the fact that they're nice enough and have the time to do that. Because I said, not many games companies do.
Yeah. So I think Travis Bowes, I think that's how you pronounce it, Bowes. The stand-in for Riot Umbridge, the new senior producer, put a thing on Twitter saying that it was a pretty bad post. It's not the kind of thing you want to see. It was like we don't think that any of the buffs we have done in like the history of this game have made any significant difference. Like, small buffs don't really matter. It was a pretty bad post. It was not like the kind of thing we want to read coming off of this patch. And then almost like just about 24 hours later, they posted the Reddit post that we were just talking about. And the majority of people responded positively to this Reddit post, and I'm going to paraphrase significantly here because I don't want to call anybody out, but I've seen a couple of people saying things like, well, just 24 hours ago, the senior producer said this. How are they going to rotate on a coin so quickly? Like, I can't believe them if they're going to be talking like this and then like this. What you've got to remember is that the devs interact with the community on a one-on-one level. Like, Riot Umbridge and Travis Bowes are very good at talking to us, but they are individual human beings. And if you were to post on Reddit saying something and then get 1,000 downvotes in 24 hours, you would also spit on a dime. This is not Riot being an untrustworthy company or two-faced or whatever. This is individuals caving under the pressure of thousands of people telling them they're wrong. And I think Riot coming forward and talking to us with real human being faces and identities is extremely brave, and we are abusing that.
Yeah.
Like, EA, when you complain to EA, you are atting EA on Twitter, but you can tag real people. Like, do you understand what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying?
You could actually talk to the we have the developers and whatnot. Like, we actually know their Twitter handles, their Reddit handles and whatnot, so we can at them directly. And I do believe that most of them do actually read these things and then actually get back to you on a personal one-to-one basis, rather than, as you're saying, like any other company whereby if you wanted to get in touch with them, like say that it was like Hearthstone, then you'd be like at in Blizzard, or as you said, like if it was an EA game, you'd be like at in EA, and it would just be like, you are but a small voice in the cog of the machine. We care not for you. Like,
we will never nerf Secret Mage.
we shall send. We don't even need to respond to you because you're so tiny in the grand scheme of things. But that's what I mean. Like, we actually get one-to-one contact, and that's why it's a nice thing to have, and would be a terrible thing to ruin.
Yeah. And that's really coming from this. What I am most upset by is the community response to real actual human beings acting like real actual human beings do. Like, people are treating Riot like a faceless corporation and complaining as if they are a faceless corporation. But like, their reaction over the past few days has been very human because they're actual people.
Yeah, and as I said, like, there is nothing like what we're saying here as well. I think like I'm gonna guess that you're trying to say the same thing as me, in that there is nothing wrong with having an opinion and having criticisms, but there is a way to go about it, and to know that, like I said, so constructively criticizing or whatnot, not just screaming and expect it, not like, like screaming like, say, a petulant child and expecting something to change. Like, there's a big difference in the two way, like in going about like how you vent your frustration.
I mean, because in the sense we are the customers, we can actually scream like petulant children and
Oh,
then
yeah.
get the reaction and then get what we want. What I hate seeing is then people patting themselves on the back as if they've done the right thing.
Mm.
Like, sure, you can scream like a petulant child and you can get what you want, but like that's not good praxis. I have more faith in Riot than that. I believe that if we were a bit more muted in our response and showed our discontent a little more adult, then they would still get the point. I think they can garner discontent from an audience pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I said so it's a bit of a shame on that front. But I said, like, let's hope that moving forward we can go about it in a much more reasoned way. Because otherwise, I think you end up entering dangerous territory if you start saying that, well, if we don't like something, all we've got to do is scrout and like a scream and shout about it, and things will get changed. Because then what you get is this thing that happened, like Zero Aurelia, was a point of contention for most people. So like you had like the voice of the crowd with you, but if you start going on about like every little tiny thing, then they're just getting loads of voices shouting and screaming negatively and throwing, like, their poo at you, if you like, from all different directions. And there's nothing like focused or anything that can be constructively done about that. So it's being very like careful that not thinking like, oh well, they've done this so they'll change anything. Let's scream and shout about this, scream and shout about this, scream and shout about this, that thing. And at the end of the day, from what we've seen, actually looking at how, like, I don't know whether or not people saw the little animation thing that they did about how Legends of Runeterra started, like with the two guys, and
oh, I loved that.
Like how
that was great.
Like, yeah, they had like it was called Project Bacon, and like how they were trying to make this game the way that they would to make something fun and with card games, because they'd come up with that kind of games and whatnot, and so they wanted to make something fun. And then what they did create and how fantastic it was, and like when we started bringing in more and more community and how like nice this community was, and the fact that like they did listen to us, and it was like it was a symbiotic, like they were kind of working off of us and we were working off of what they were giving us, like, you know what I mean, like there was a nice start. Let's not divulge more terribly, because what we'll end up doing is making the people who are making the game hate the game.
Yeah.
And if we do that, we're not going to get a good game at the end of it.
Yeah.
When you think of it like that.
Yeah, over the past couple of weeks, I could probably be misconstrued.
Yes, that's the words.
People might get the misunderstanding of what I've been trying to say on Twitter. It looked a lot like I was defending a Zero Aurelia. What I was advocating for was people understanding why they hated it. I was getting very tired of seeing people like just lose their minds and going rabid over this deck like it was a Disney villain. Like it has actual weaknesses, and it has what I'm trying to say is over the past few weeks I've gotten very tired of Twitter noise and people just complaining with no real point and very often no real backing to their statements, and like contradicting themselves in the same sentences, and like it. People have really lost their fucking minds this past month.
And that's the thing. If Janky's feeling this way, how do you feel that the developers are feeling trying to listen to all of this? If Janky can't understand it, and it's like trying to make his way through it all and getting annoyed, how do you think they're feeling? Think about that, because at the end of the day, they are people as well. It's very important to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, on a much lighter note, new Lab of Legends.
Yes.
Is brilliant. I've got up here a list of all of the new powers. Do you want me to send that over in Discord?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Please,
the lovely Cosmic has put them all in one place.
I mean, to be fair, Cosmic is so like on it. Whenever it comes to anything like this, like Cosmic is so quick at finding these things and doing them. The one other improvement to Lab of Legends that I just want to say is so good in terms of quality of life is the fact that you now get to get the free reroll on the power on the first
Yeah.
one. Because let's face it, a lot of people were going in, not seeing the one they wanted, ending run, having to start it again,
Yeah.
and the continuousness of doing that until you found, okay, that's a power that I want with this champion. And so the fact that you can now just do the free reroll, such a good quality of life change.
Yeah. Hopefully at some point in the future they just make it so that you can select from a full list
Yeah.
instead of just spamming reroll until you see the one you like.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have added some really interesting ones. So I think it's what, 3 epics, 5 rares, and 10 commons.
Yes.
Is that what people?
It.
Yeah.
Like
And I've been playing this like the last couple of days, mostly at work, unless my boss is watching. And I haven't even seen half of these yet. They are really freaking cool, actually.
I mean, the fact that the one of them, like I said, like I've been playing a little bit as well, so I've seen some of them. But the fact that sharing is caring is one, which is when you summon an ally, grant its keywords that it is Zoe's level up.
Yes,
just instantly without having to level up. Because let's face it, Zoe was actually has always been quite a devastating like second champion to get in Lab of Legends, because once you get her out, and like if you can get her turn 1 and level her, then things go crazy. And the fact that you've actually got her level up ability as a power immediately, it's devastating.
Yeah. Looking across these, it has a very similar feel to the last ones. It's just like a lot of cards that maybe you like don't see play being used in creative ways, like at the start of your game, create 2 Vanguard lookouts. Battlefield training uses the art of the dumb slow speed Demacian 1 cost that makes something 1/1 bigger. That's kind of cool. Create a Blade's Edge every turn. It's things being used in creative ways, and I'm just happy to see more dungeon run-esque things in labs.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing for people who maybe do not play labs, the new Malphite card back that you can spend real actual dollarinos on is available if you play against the 5 new champions that have just been added to ranked. Or sorry, play as
Yeah.
the 5 new champions that were just added to labs. I don't know what the fuck I just said.
Yes.
And the card back actually looks kind of sick. You can rock your new card back while losing with Malphite.
I mean, I love the fact that you said rocket when, like, I'm talking about my
Thank you.
Well done, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll get a pat on the back.
Nicely
done. Nice.
The joke had layers.
Yes, no, I mean it's very nice, and I said like I feel like that is what the focus of this was, this patch. So that's why obviously we didn't get as much as we was thinking. But Lab of Legends, magnificent work. There, I'm happy. Like the additional powers, there's only one improvement that I'm really looking forward to that they should do with Lab of Legends that would just make the mode really like off the charts for me, and that is actually making it so that there are different regions. So it's not just your standard Shadow Isles Fresh, Freljord, Sejuani, and PNZ Victor. If they like are added in like Bilgewater, Targon, like Shurima, if they added those in, but then like with whatever the hell champ they wanted to have for that region's thing, and made it so it was like a randomizer, so that when you start your run, you get like, you know, Bilgewater, PNZ, and whatever the hell else in the next. So that every run is different. Because let's face it, at this point, I've got like I love labs, but I am getting sick and tired of beating the crap out of Victor.
Yeah. There are 3 changes I want to see made to labs, probably in this order. Is I want them to make the bosses' abilities more powerful. Because, like, the abilities they get at the start are really silly weak. Like, a couple of them you can get by playing. I want Victor to feel like a final boss, but, like, his ability is something that you can literally get by the time you reach Victor, he is such a pushover because you've already got, like, 7 more abilities than he does. Like, the difficulty tiers are nice and all, like, being able to play on Heroic is cool and all, but, like, they still only have, like, 1 ability, and they don't feel like they are that much more powerful than you.
Yeah.
The next thing is, like you said, I want them to add more regions and more bosses, and I want them to shuffle the bosses. Like I want it to just be in a random order, like it is.
Because yeah, literally, if they shuffle the bosses, that's a different experience every single time. Then I'm not. Because look, here's the thing: when I'm playing, so I want to play Zillion. Okay, I want to play Zillion, and you know what power I want to give him? I want to give him that new power, which is start the game with 4 time bombs already in your deck. Because I want to level Zillion as many times. I want to see my time wizard do his like a Doctor Strange bullshit as he levels up. Okay, but I know the second that I get into scars in Freljord, I know I'm fucked. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I just died now. My doing 1 damage to everything seems to have made the enemy stronger.
Yeah. There's also like right. So spiders are actually kind of bullshit, right? Like I feel like if you're playing on heroic or hard, spiders taxes you like 20 health before you've even fucking started. Because like they're not too hard to win against. It's just like it's really hard to block all of their damage before you win.
Right.
Like yeah, I feel like I'm at the start of the Shadow Isle section. I'm starting on 20 less health than every other section. But I digress. The last thing I really want to see, and this was like the coolest thing from Dungeon Run for me, and I keep on comparing this to Dungeon Run because Hearthstone actually just did a perfect version of Lab of Legends. Dungeon Run was beautiful.
That is essentially this is Dungeon Run. Like
Yeah.
you know,
And it's I'd like Riot's doing well, but I will say this is not as good as Dungeon Run yet. Dungeon Run was a fucking masterpiece. One thing I want to see is them add cards that exist only in this game mode. Like, really overpowered, over the top, stupid things that appear in the pockets you can pick from the, when it offers you 3 cards, I want there to be a chance that those cards are cards that were made specifically for this game mode and do really stupid shit. I don't know if they'll actually do that because there's, like, a limited number of, like, League of Legends characters that they can pull from.
Yeah.
But it would be great to see.
I mean, as I said, like, I would love to see that kind of stuff as well because it is what made Dungeon Run in Hearthstone like such a fun mode to play. And I said it's crazy how fun this Lab of Legends is in general. Like, it's a single player mode, but like you can literally just like have like a really good time playing it, and just a few little tweaks and improvements that could just make that even more so.
Yeah.
So
but
yes,
I think that's us? Question mark?
I mean, yeah, I think that we covered most of the things. Obviously, the only other thing to note, which I think is the other thing, which was like a little bit of a like, yeah, moment, was the fact that obviously now we don't have cross shard friend challenges. So in this patch as well, this is now like we were told this beforehand, but from this patch onwards, we now can no longer do cross shard friend challenges, which I think is like a little bit more like, you know, so like as a little bit more of a blow, a little bit more like a salt in the wound of of this one, if you know what I mean. So
a cherry on the shit sundae, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like I suppose that's the end. There wasn't really a super huge amount to talk about today. There was only the 4 cards that got released. Sorry, got changed. Yeah, so thank you ever so much for watching. And we shall see you. Probably the next episode we record will be the 30th or like the 29th when the spoiler season ends, because the new set's coming out on the 30th, right?
I mean, the next one will probably be on like the 16th or something when patch 2.10 comes out. I know that it's going to be very small, minor changes. It's always like, you know, the small ones, but there's still time between, Buddy Boo. There's still time between when the new cards come out.
We'll see what patch 2.10 has in it, and if it's worth talking about. But either way, we will see you all in the next one. Thank you ever so much for watching. You can find all of our socials in the description. Obviously, we both stream. We both we're both active internet users, and you can you can find us at those locations. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.